Nothing gonna bring me down. I got my head held high. I'm on my way, and I'm following the signs to my happy place. I'm walking in the light of a brand new day, and I'm right where I belong in my happy place. Call to order the Coon Rapids Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Passner, will you please take roll?
Commissioner Knobloch?
Here.
Commissioner No?
Here.
Commissioner Tremmel is absent. Commissioner Casey?
Here.
Chair Schwartz is absent. Commissioner Ronyak?
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Schmolke?
Here. All right, so Commission, at this time, I'll consider a motion to adopt this evening's agenda.
So moved.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ronyak with a second by Commissioner Casey. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying aye or nay. Hearing none, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Okay, so now we'll move on to considering a motion to approve the minutes from the February 19th Planning Commission meeting.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner No?
I move that we approve the minutes for the February 19th meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner No and a second by Commissioner Casey. Any corrections or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying aye or nay. Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Okay, so now we have the first case for the evening, the planning case 26-4, site plan Suite Senior Living, Jeremy Larson, Hampton Companies, LLC. Mr. Patzner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So I have before you tonight a request for a site plan and for dimensional flexibility for Suite Senior Living, which is a proposed assisted living and memory care facility located at 725 96th Avenue. So this is a parcel that was split off from a larger parcel that is home to Diversified Adjustments, which is an existing business on that parcel. Back in 2023, a plat was approved to split off the western 2/5 or so of the parcel. And a site plan was actually recommended approval by the Planning Commission and approved by the City Council for Suite Senior Living, which was to be phase one of a two-phase development. Between 2023 and 2025, no work was done, no building permits were applied for, so that site plan approval did expire in December of 2025. The applicant is bringing it forward slightly modified as a single-phase assisted living development, which is very similar to the originally proposed Phase 1. The applicant is not proposing a Phase 2 as part of this. So what's being proposed here would be the final plan for the site per the applicant. So this is a site zoned Port Evergreen and in the River Rapids Overlay District with a commercial mixed-use land use designation. Assisted living is a permitted use in the Port District, so this is considered a permitted use. But site plan approval, recommendation by Planning Commission and approval by the City Council is required since this is in the River Rapids Overlay. So this is near the intersection of, I kept the wrong one there. Sorry, this is near the intersection of Coon Rapids Boulevard and Norway Street, and near the Foley Boulevard intersection as well. So access to the site is proposed off of 96th Avenue to the south. So one would be able to access this from Coon Rapids Boulevard either by taking Norway Street or taking Foley Boulevard to 96th Avenue, and only one access is proposed. So what's being proposed is a 32-unit facility. So 20 of the units would be assisted living units, and 12 of the units would be memory care units. Generally, this would not be a residential facility for residents who are entering and leaving the site by themselves. So residents would not have their own vehicles on site for the most part. They would be remaining on site and leaving only with, family members, things like that, rather than by themselves. The proposal is for 2.1 acres of the 2.9 acre site. So 0.8 acres of the site on the western edge will either remain to be wetland or be used for stormwater ponding. There is a wetland on the very western end of the site, which is to be undisturbed by the development. Utility connections on the site would be from 96th Avenue to the south. Stormwater would be flowing to the proposed stormwater pond on the northwest part of the site, and from there to the ditch along Coon Rapids Boulevard. The applicant is also proposing a detached 1,040 square foot carriage house, which would essentially be a maintenance shed. This would be for storage of maintenance equipment and other equipment outside of the main building. And this would be on the western side of the parking lot. The applicant is proposing only 24 parking spaces instead of the 38 required. So for assisted living, the city code requires that 1.2 spaces be provided per unit, which would amount to 38 for this site. However, staff believe that since the residents on site would not be having their own vehicle on site, would not be entering or leaving the site on their own, it is appropriate to request flexibility for fewer parking spaces. So what's being proposed are 24 spaces or 0.75 spaces per unit, which would be entirely for staff and guest parking. All other zoning requirements, as noted in the memo, for the Port Evergreen and River Rapids overlay districts are met or are either met or covered by proposed conditions of approval, aside from the flexibility request. So landscaping requirements are met. The applicant is proposing trees and shrubs around the entirety of the site and around the stormwater pond, and they are proposing to preserve the existing trees in the wetland area. So there are a number of existing trees that would be preserved on site. And I did include here just a visual of fire truck turnarounds in the parking lot. So fire trucks are able to access this site from all sides. And fire department review was, had no comments or conditions on the site. So one element of the site that is a little bit more complicated than a standard site plan. So back in 2023, when the plat was approved, it was approved with a condition that all engineering comments be met, and one of the engineering comments was that the sidewalk proposed on the site along 96th Avenue be extended across the diversified adjustments site to the southeast and connect to the Foley Boulevard sidewalk. And this is because generally there's no sidewalk proposed along Norway Street to connect to Coon Rapids Boulevard to the north, and that would be a difficult place for a sidewalk in general since there's a ditch along the southern side of Coon Rapids Boulevard. So the sidewalk connection from this site basically to anywhere else would have to be via 96th Avenue to Foley Boulevard. So that condition of approval remains unmet, even though that plat was approved and recorded. And so the engineering comments, reflecting those engineering comments from 2023, are requiring as a condition of approval that that sidewalk be extended. So what's being required is a 6-foot wide sidewalk with generally a 5-foot boulevard between the sidewalk and the curb. Staff are proposing that cost responsibility for this sidewalk be handled via the site security agreement. So one of the conditions of approval is that a site security agreement be approved. This agreement can be a tool to determine after this meeting what the cost breakdown for that sidewalk will be. So staff are proposing that no additional conditions be added to this proposal related to the sidewalk. Essentially, all of the conditions related to the sidewalk are covered by the conditions listed here. So moving on to the aesthetics of the building. So the building will have two-story expression, be about 24 feet in height, and with roof dormer windows, which will have smoked glass, so they will appear as windows. Roofing materials are proposed to be asphalt shingles, whereas siding materials are proposed to be LP Smart siding for the shakes and lap siding, and stone wainscoting along the bottom. So this does meet the mix of materials requirements in the Port and River Rapids overlay districts, and the applicant is intending the building to have a residential aesthetic, which is common for assisted living facilities. I also included, we don't have actual physical material samples, but I do have an image of the material samples here showing the asphalt shingles, LP Smart siding, and the stone for the wainscoting. As far as the building layout, what's being proposed is having the west wing, those 20 units be assisted living, whereas the south wing, those 12 units would be memory care units. The patios for the assisted living and memory care wings would be separated, so there would be an enclosed patio for each of those wings, as well as outdoor space for staff to spend time in. Each unit would be 350 square feet, and for single occupancy, including a full bathroom, shower, and kitchenette. Meals would be served in a community dining room. There would be a commercial kitchen on site, as well as some lounge areas, activity centers, a beauty salon, things like that for the residents to enjoy. And then I included, and it's a little bit difficult to see, an elevation of the carriage house. The carriage house would have exterior materials and an overall aesthetic that would match the principal structure. So having gone over that, staff are recommending approval for the site plan as well as for the flexibility request. In terms of conditions of approval, the unusual conditions, or the uncommon conditions, I suppose, added to here include the addition of a bike rack, which was not included in the original site plan, the addition of screening by either fencing or landscaping for the ground mechanical equipment, and an update to the photometric plan to show at least 1 foot candle across all parking areas and drive lanes. So that's all I have in terms of a presentation. Thank you.
Is there anything the petitioner wishes to add to the presentation? Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Mrs. Chair, Commission members, my name is Jeremy Larson. I'm here on behalf of Sweet Living Senior Care, Hampton Companies, and address is 1824 Berkeley Road, White Bear Lake. I know there's probably some questions as to why we are coming back through the process again, why things have changed since it was in 2023 when we were last approved. We did have 2 buildings initially planned for this site. We were going to phase them out so they weren't going to both be under construction at the same time. Oops, I pressed something up here. During the time after we got approved, things changed in the financing world. Capital markets dried up a little bit, so we were on the sidelines for about 1.5 years before starting any new projects, and now we have financing again, so we're hoping to get this one underway. And in the meantime, we just made the determination to just have 1 building on the site and have a little bit more green space. So. We're family owned and operated. We have 23 communities throughout the Twin Cities. We have done market studies for this specific spot, and there's definitely a need. So, and I'm here to answer any other questions you may have.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll, if we have any questions, we'll raise them in a few minutes here. So at this time, I'd like to open a public hearing in planning case 26-4. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the commission in this case? And if so, please make your way to the podium to be heard. Please state your name and address for the record. Anyone who wishes to speak? Anyone who wishes to speak in this case? Okay, so seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open comments to the commission. Commission, any questions or comments for staff?
I have a question. It relates to the parking, and not so much as to this project here, but the way we handle the parking. Now, recently, we approved a addition building over on Coon Rapids Boulevard for the door factory. They had like 6 employees in the office, maybe 4, 10 in the back part of the factory. They had parking stalls for 150 people. No retail. And when they put the addition in, they had to put in a retention pond because there was no place to put the stormwater because they had so much parking space. Now here, we're required 1.2, I think, per stall, per room. We've reduced that to now 24 from the 38 required. In the event on a weekend or a Mother's Day or something like that, the traffic could easily exceed the 24 parking spots. Other than I see to improve drainage and other things, what is the rationale for reducing the parking?
Commissioner Roniak, the rationale is that the 1.2 parking spaces required for assisted living is based on the assumption that residents at the assisted living facility themselves would have vehicles and be entering and leaving the site. Based on the fact that that element of parking need will not be present on this site, staff find that 24 parking spaces to accommodate for staff, guests, and visitors is sufficient because it does take into account, things like Mother's Day where a lot of guests might be showing up. They're still not all showing up at the same time necessarily. And the 32 spaces that would be required for a standard assisted living facility where residents would have their cars on site on, say, Mother's Day, for example, you'd have all those guests arriving as well as the resident parking on site. So that's what that number is to account for. And so staff do think that reducing the requirement for this site, because it is uniquely a site where residents are staying on site, is appropriate. Thank you.
So in other words, you have rules, but the rules only pertain to having them adjusted accordingly. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I keep seeing these, we have rules and then all of a sudden they don't make sense sometimes. And then whatever, but I'm sure dealing with this type of structures down in Florida and the amount of traffic in that, I'm sure there probably will work without any problems. I rest.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Casey.
Well, hence the need for the variance or the design flexibility. That's why they're here, to alter that parking. And it seems to me the plan includes statistics from Champlin and Brooklyn Park, Fridley, Andover, where they have a similar facility and they can reduce the parking based on those same criteria that Max talked about. I think it makes some sense when there are no residents with cars. I can see the rationale for the reduction, and I applaud the idea that that space could be used for green space, outdoor, amenities, that kind of thing. I think that makes more sense with the river rapid overlay, and so I'd like to applaud the applicant for stepping up and seeing to that aspect of it. It's a visual and practical too at the same time.
Thank you.
Chair Schmolke, if I may add a comment, there is also street parking along 96th Avenue in front of that site, so I did not include that in my presentation. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments for the staff at this time? I guess I do have one. I think that might help with the parking question too, and I believe it is in the notes, but I don't want to rummage through it. So how many spaces do we think would be occupied by employees? Does it give us those numbers, the employees versus how many open spaces there would be after that?
Chair Schmolke, if I remember correctly, I believe there's 3 8-hour shifts on site. Now, I don't know off the top of my head the number of employees per shift, but the applicant might be able to speak to that. Apologies. It's right in there.
It is in there, I think, but yeah, thank you.
To answer your question about staffing, during the day, there's roughly between 4 to 7 employees there at any given moment, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. Overnight, there's probably about 3 to 5 at the most.
And do you think that carries over to the weekends as well, or is
Yeah,
it just
yep,
weekdays?
it's all the same, it's all the same, yep, staffing requirements. So there might be a few more visitors here and there on the weekends, but sadly, there isn't a whole lot of visitors. And like I mentioned before, we have 23 of these communities and they're all the exact same. So if, we needed to add more parking, we would, but we just don't.
Excellent, thank you. All right, any other comments then? Just quick check. Do we have a motion?
Chair Schmolke. I have a
Commissioner
motion
Knobloch?
in planning case 26-4, Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed site plan with the following 8 conditions attached in the packet.
Do we have a
second that.
second? A second from Commissioner No. Any other further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes with Knobloch as in favor and no second. This is the recommendation by the Planning Commission in Planning Case 26-4, and the case will be heard by City Council at the April 7th, 2026 council meeting. Okay, so we're on to our second case of the evening.
Chair Schmolke, I apologize for interrupting you.
Sure.
I believe we do also have the motion for flexibility as a separate.
Oh,
motion.
separate? Thank you, okay. So we need a motion, I guess, on the flexibility. Do we
Madam
have
Chair.
a motion on the flexibility? Commissioner No?
I'd recommend in planning case 26-4, the approval of the dimensional flexibility for parking as elucidated in this packet.
Second.
First by No, second by Knobloch. Any other comments? Hearing none, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed signify by saying aye or nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. And I think we can, and it will too be heard then by the council on April 7th. Sorry for the little disruption there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we can move on to our second case. In planning case 26-5, this is an ordinance amendment, subdivision variance standards, city code section 11-1504. Mr. Patzner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. So the second item I have for you tonight is a request to revise Section 11-1504.7 of the City Code. This is considered by staff to be generally a housekeeping revision. So the request is to revise the subdivision variances section of the code so that the required findings for a subdivision variance in 11-1504 align with the required findings for a standard variance in section 11-304.8 of the city code. So the main changes in order to achieve this are replacing the term hardship with practical difficulty where present, removing language in this section of the code directly referencing the hardship standards, and removing the requirement that 2/3 of the council vote for both the preliminary plat and final plat for approval of a subdivision variance, whereas with a standard variance, a simple majority is okay. So this generally just brings it in line, making it so that the only real difference between a subdivision variance and a standard variance that is required is that it goes to the Planning Commission and then the City Council instead of to the Board of Adjustment. I don't want to get into all the details of why This change is required since I'm not steeped in this knowledge and I don't want to give any wrong information. But generally, back in 2011, the state statute was changed in terms of what findings are required by a city in order to approve a variance. We updated our city code in section 11-304 for standard variance to match the required findings in statute. We did not make that update in 11-1504. So we would just be updating 11-1504 to bring it in line with 304 and with the state statute. If we were to not do this update, it wouldn't cause any serious problems, but for any subdivision variance, we would have to have two sets of findings required, one to meet the city code and one to meet state statute, since those findings are slightly different. And I did include those findings here. I don't want to go over them. They're very similar to each other, but there's differences in language, and the finding requirements for practical difficulty are a little bit less strict than the requirements for hardship. So with that, staff are recommending approval of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patzner. Commission, any questions for Mr. Patzner?
Yes.
Commissioner Roniak?
Go back one page. On your hardship, did you have a set of codes or requirements previously to this as to what qualified for a hardship?
Commissioner Roniak, the hardship standards were required by state statute up until the law was changed in 2011. So the requirements I have listed here, the required findings, are the required findings that the city has had in our code for well before my time, for a very long time. And so for both the standard variance and subdivision variance, those hardship findings used to apply. Now practical difficulty is what's required in statute. We updated one, but not the other. But the hardship findings, I don't know when those were originally adopted, but quite a long time ago.
Were they more restrictive than what's going to be possible now?
If I might,
Go ahead, Blair.
Chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Roniak, that's a tough question. I mean, you're gonna get the lawyer answer of it depends in that instance. In some situations, it'd be easier to meet practical difficulties, but in others, the hardship findings are a little simpler. It really just, it is a fact-dependent circumstance. And as Mr. Patzner said, this is somewhat of a housekeeping change. To be blunt, we discovered this recently, and we're just bringing the code into compliance with state statute. So
In other words, this looks like it's going to give it a little more leeway.
I would say so, yes. I would say generally speaking, the law views what we're changing it to as less restrictive.
Thank you, Mr. Bucciaconi. So at this time, we do need to have a public hearing if there's no other questions for staff, commission. Okay, so at this time, we'll have the public hearing in planning case 26-5. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the commission in this case? Anyone who wishes to address the commission in planning case 26-25? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and open the comments to the commission. Comments, commission, anyone?
I'll make a
Commissioner
motion
Casey?
that in planning case 26-5, that we recommend approval of an ordinance revising subdivision variance standards and amending city code section 11-1504.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Casey and a second by, was that Knobloch, correct? And so therefore recommending approval of the ordinance amendment. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying aye or nay. The motion passes, and it is the recommendation of the Planning Commission in Planning Case 26-5. The case will be heard by City Council at the April 7th, 2026 council meeting. Okay, is there any other business that we need to address?
Chair Schmolke, I can quickly go over the items planned for the April meeting if you'd like.
Great. Mr. Patzner?
So in keeping with the theme of one planning item and one housekeeping ordinance amendment, in the April meeting, we have planned a public hearing for a conditional use permit for DeMar Assisted Living, which is at 11777 Exeon Boulevard. So this is an existing building, an existing assisted living facility that closed in 2021 and has been vacant for the last 5 years. And they would like to make some changes to the inside of the facility, a few exterior changes, and reopen the facility. However, assisted living is a conditional use in the moderate density residential district. So because it's been closed for more than a year, there's no way to consider it the continuation of an existing legal non-conforming use. They are required to have a CUP for that use. So they're coming forward to request a CUP to open an assisted living facility at that building. I have it highlighted in blue a little bit here, but it's part of the general Mary T. communities along Exeon Boulevard there. And then the second item is another ordinance amendment proposed by staff to change our temporary sign storage requirements. As it stands right now, when code enforcement finds a temporary sign that's illegal, that's in the city right-of-way, they grab it out of the ground and put it in their vehicle and bring it to the Public Works facility. And we have in our code that anyone who's had their temporary sign pulled has 30 days to come and claim it from the Public Works facility. This has proven very difficult to keep track of when signs were pulled and how long they've been there and dispose of them at the right time, and the signs keep piling up. Most cities don't have that 30-day requirement. Generally, they dispose of signs after so many days. It would be significantly easier for the city to do it that way, so we're proposing removing that 30-day requirement and allowing the Public Works facility to dispose of signs when there get to be too many, as opposed to needing to keep track of that. So those are the two items to look forward to for the April meeting.
Excellent.
I believe we'll have items for the May meeting as well, so the plan currently is not to cancel any of the upcoming meetings, but of course, we'll see. And that's all I have for you right now. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Passner. Is there anything else from the commission?
I would move to
I have a
adjourn.
question.
Commissioner?
Can we have a few more controversial issues here, because these are getting so dull? I mean, we need a little more excitement here.
Thank you, Commissioner Roniak. All right, if there is nothing else, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We have a first by Casey, second
Second.
by Commissioner No. All those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and the meeting is adjourned.